So we just were having a conversation and we thought now's a great time to bring you into the conversation because it was becoming exciting and we're getting more and more excited about the whole idea of values and inserting values coaching into the coaching world where it doesn't seem to be a prevalent force right now. And so as we were talking, like I said before, we got excited. So I thought we'd introduce ourselves. Laurie, why don't you go first?
Sure. I'm Laurie Cozart. I am one of the partners of Science to Wellbeing and one of the mentor coaches for the program.
And I'm Steve Cozart, also with Science to Wellbeing and one of the principals of the company. Just wanted to introduce you to the concept, if you haven't already heard it, of values and values coaching. Laurie, what do you think is the most important thing, just right off the bat, that people need to think about when they think about the concept of values coaching?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that coaches need to think about is how often values, or whether they're acquired or core values, will get in the way of transformational growth.
Hmm.
And I think it's important for coaches to understand the difference between the two so that they can help clients move on from patterns of behaviors or old worn out values that they feel super connected to that might not be any longer serving them.
So kind of thinking about the difference between core values and maybe what a core value is in reality, and maybe looking at how that compares to what we call acquired values in our program. From what you can correct me if I'm wrong, a core value is kind of what that's been described by the science behind all of this is kind of who we're born as. Our psychological DNA is what it's been called, and kind of, if you want to call it in scientific terms, it's what really makes us who we are, possibly the values that we are born with. And then there's the acquired values, which we kind of gather along the pathway of life. You know, what we're told by our family of origin, or anything from advertising to slogans to even sayings like, you know, money doesn't grow on trees, things like that, where we just throughout our life, we start adopting these other values. And sometimes the core values, what truly feed us and give us energy, especially when we're, you know, kind of out in the world. We may find that we're doing something that we think is important to us and we kind of become exhausted from it, versus when we're working within activities that really are part of our core values, we walk away with energy, even more energy sometimes than when we started. Does that seem right?
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. You know, acquired values are much louder than core values. They're constantly pulling at us in maybe sometimes not so healthy ways. So, for example, you know, I saw this ad that came out on Facebook. I'm just going to show you this. Can you see that boot?
Uh-huh.
That's an actual boot that has been put out on Facebook as, you know, anyway, people were sharing it
Stylish.
around.
It's
Yeah, stylish.
stylish.
And this boot is like $1,500.
Just one?
Well, no, it comes in a pair, obviously. But I think the point about it is that acquired value of thinking that we have to have that boot is what can really get in the way of us being authentic and being who we are. Now, I have no problem with people buying the boot, right? If they want the boot, they can buy the boot, certainly. But I think that that's what drives us. We see the advertising. We see, you know, people who are famous. We see people with lots of money, and we sort of start to look at those things, and it becomes part of what we value. And, you know, I'll share from a personal perspective, because I worked in retail for a very, very long time. And the pressure sort of, when you're in that environment all day, every day, to have the newest, to have the best, to really follow the trends and have those things, can become exhausting. And I think, to your point about acquired values, that's really the difference.